Welcome to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, a podcast where I talk about the Constitution, politics, history, and pretty much anything else I want to talk about. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube. If you want to see what we look like, go to youtube.com/Annette Talks. And tonight we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is pushing back on all of these COVID restrictions. There's a lot of us out here that are just sick to death of them and angry. And so tonight I brought on someone who's actually been doing something about it, which I admire greatly. It's Eric Moutsos. Did I pronounce that correctly, Eric?
It was perfect.
Excellent. For the longest time, I've been your Facebook friend for a long time, and I've followed your posts. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking Moustos in my head. And then when I went down to Castle Rock when you came into town, and I looked down like, it's Moutsos. Duh, all this time. The T is before the S. So you came down to Castle Rock with Sharona and Dr. Barkey, and you guys put on a presentation on how to open up businesses again that you've been doing in Utah. And you gave a little background on what you do, and you showed part of your movie. And so I was like, I've got to talk to this guy, and I've got to talk to Dr. Barkey. And I ended up talking to all three of you and managed to talk you into coming on the podcast tonight. So what I was hoping you could do is tell us a little bit about why you're doing what you're doing and what you're doing.
I would love the answers to both of those because
well,
I'm doing.
I know that on Facebook, you've been posting these freedom posts for a long time. I mean, you're saying things that most of us are thinking and not all of us are saying in a public format. And I see you get a lot of heat because when I look at your posts, you've got hundreds of comments, and several of those can get pretty nasty. And right. So not all of us, I'm pretty brave about doing that, but I don't know about you, but I get a lot of messages on Facebook from people sharing things that they don't want to share, but they want to see it shared. And they know that I'll share it. So, yeah. But not all of us are willing to be the lightning rods. You're definitely a lightning rod out there. And so I'm always happy when I see other lightning rods, and you're a much bigger lightning rod than I am because you have a really big following out there in Utah, and you're just a lot more prolific because of the stuff that you've been doing. But I know you used to be a police officer, and that's kind of where this all started, right?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say that's where my activism, a lot of people are afraid of that word, to be an activist, but I'm not anymore. I was kind of forced into it. I didn't have a choice, and so before I was a police officer, I was pursuing a country music career. And I have to say that because it ties into the story, but I was pursuing that for about 4 years. I was on a record label of Evander Holyfield, the boxer, the only 4-time heavyweight champion of the world. And I was on his record label for about 4 years as his country artist. And I had opened up for Colin Ray, country music star Colin Ray, and we almost made it. And at that time, I just felt like it wasn't the right thing for me and my family. My wife and I just got married. We just had our first. And then I somehow stumbled into police work, and I really, really liked it. It was just right up my alley. It was always moving, different thing every day, helping people, exciting. And it started to, once I started to see how the system works, at least in Salt Lake City, because everything I'm going to say, it doesn't mean that all agencies are like that. But in Salt Lake City, it's very, very liberal. Most decisions are made based off of politics and not principle. And they came to us, my sergeant, when I was on the bicycle unit, came to us and said that we had to arrest 5 people per day. They wanted 5 misdemeanors per day.
Wow.
And it just did not sit well with me at all. I was already their number one guy, by the way. Out of like 19 bike cops, I was like either 1 or 2 in every category. And so I challenged my sergeant, which is something that you just don't do because it's kind of paramilitary. And I challenged him, and I turned in 3 misdemeanors that day instead of 5. And that's when everything changed. He pulled me out. He started screaming at me. He told me to stay after an extra hour to arrest 2 more people. I still wouldn't do it. They couldn't write me up, because if they wrote me up for that, then it would prove that they had these quotas, right?
Right.
And so my name just started getting tarnished within, but I had never been written up. Not one time in 7 years had I been written up. And I finally, after a couple years, made it over to the motorcycle unit. And that's where it really got crazy. You know, we had to do 20, either 20 tickets a day or 2 DUIs per shift.
Wow.
So I just kept my head down and I did all the DUIs. I was like by far their number one guy in DUIs. I had, I don't know, around 170 DUIs, somewhere around there, in 1 year. And then how I finally got out of police work was because they wanted 5 of us to celebrate in the LGBT parade. They didn't just want us to protect the parade like, you know, most events where we just protect their speech. They wanted us to be a part of the speech. They wanted us to lead the parade in our police uniforms. And so I asked to trade assignments.
On a side note, I can't help but think of the YMCA when you
right.
The police.
Oh yeah.
The cop.
I mean, when my story, when my story went national, there were definitely pictures and cartoons, you know. So there was one cartoon of me, you know, with all the village people on my police motorcycle.
I wasn't the only one that thought that.
And so anyway, yeah, long story short, I tried to switch positions and they wanted to know why. So I had to explain to them that I love all people, because I do. There's nobody in this world that I hate. I hate certain politics for sure, but not the person. And anyway, long story short, they took my badge and my gun for discrimination. And then it was all over national news. And then that's really when I woke up to a whole nother level about politics and how quickly your life can change because of political maneuvering in the government.
Did you challenge that decision? Did you ever try and litigate?
I was going to, yeah. I had several attorneys that reached out and wanted to take my case. And in the end, I didn't feel like it was my path. I didn't want to fight them for, you know, however many years. Because usually what happens is they'll just completely drain you. And then they'll throw you, you know, hey, here's 50 grand, shut up. That's usually what happens. And it just felt dark to me. Mm-hmm. And so instead I decided to tell my story about it. I tell tons of different stories in it. I wrote a book about it. It's actually free on my webpage. You can get on Amazon too, but it's called Dispatched, Conscience or Conformity.
And if you can't see it, if you're not watching YouTube, there's a gag over his mouth, and it looks like this is a police line.
Well, it's the police line, like do not cross.
Right.
And so
Dispatch, that's a good title because you were dispatched.
Yeah, Dispatch, Conscience or Conformity. So if you go to ericmoutsos.com, you can actually read it for free right there. You can sign up and read it for free. But if you have to hold a book like I do, you can go to Amazon. Awesome. But I wanted to tell the story because people don't understand how most things are political. And most decisions that are made by these people in either in office or in these, you know, city jobs, it's all about keeping their job, and it's all about staying with the narrative. And if you don't follow along, you're kind of an outcast. And it was awful. I'm telling you, it was 2014 when that happened. And when I resigned 2 days after that, because I knew if they don't get you for A, like if they're investigating you for A or B, they're going to get you for Y or Z. Mm-hmm. Like no matter what, you're done. Right. And so I resigned and I got out of police work, and it was one of the hardest things we've ever done. But now looking back, it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, because it challenged me to find God on a deeper level. It challenged me to find myself on a deeper level, to where I now believe in myself, to where I work for myself. I don't allow anyone else to control my life. And I've put my faith in God to help bless me and my family. And
well, so I commend you for leaving, because obviously the easier thing would have been to just compromise and just go along and say, okay, I don't like doing it, but the alternative is where you're at now. Right. The easier thing would have been to just go along to get along. But we're seeing a lot of that right now with the COVID restrictions, right? It's easier to just go along to get along. And that's a big
everywhere.
Part. Yes.
Well, everywhere too. Like even in the medical field, you're seeing all of these nurses. I'm getting dozens of messages from nurses, even doctors, saying, I wish I could say something. I just shake my head because it's like, we need your voice so bad.
Yeah.
But I understand. It's like you have a family. So I understand both sides of it. But, I keep saying this. Look, if we don't all start saying these things, nobody's going to have jobs here soon.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
this
and
is a communist takeover of the United States of America. People don't think that, but it is a full-on communist takeover, ran mostly by China. It's a spiritual war that we're in, and God needs us right now. Like He needs us. He needs our voices so bad.
are you doing a check-in with God before you do the stuff that you're doing to make sure that this is the path that He wants you on?
Every day. I just try to.
The only reason I'm asking you that is because that's my big personal struggle right now, is that I'm very freedom-minded like you. And, I have a fire in my belly for freedom, and I see all the things that are going on. And at the same time, within the church, we're both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are taught, and part of our doctrine is that we follow the laws of the land, right? But yet we're now in a position when the laws of the land, especially the ones right now with COVID, are unconstitutional.
Mhm.
And so there's a part of me that says, okay, so a governor, puts out a mandate, but the mandate is obviously violating the Constitution, First Amendment, religious expression, First Amendment right to gather, not gather, assemble, assembly, right? And you go to church and you see all these restrictions playing out right before your eyes in church, right? The church, the government's not supposed to reach into church and tell us what to do, and yet that's what's happening right now. And so, for me, the difficulty is I want to obey the law, but at the same time, I know that these laws are violating the highest law of the land. And so what is my obligation to push back, but still feel like I'm doing it in a righteous way?
Yeah. Well, number one, they aren't laws. That's another problem, is that in order to become a law, it's got to go through a process to the House, to the Senate, the governor. I mean, these are made up, whimsical things that they're coming up with. And so that's number one. People say, well, a seatbelt law. Well, a seatbelt law, it went through the process to become a law. And these mandates, especially these mask things, not a law. And ultimately, when it becomes where our laws have been entirely corrupted, that's when I believe it's our duty to say no. For example, it was the way in the police department that you had to have X amount of tickets, right? So then you think, oh, well, that's the law. I mean, obviously it's a police department doing it, so why not do it? Mm-hmm. Well, there's something called conscience. And when your conscience is speaking, that's the highest form. I think it was Albert Einstein that talked about it. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but he basically said that conscience is the highest form. I'm not even, I can't do this without looking it up. So Albert Einstein, sorry, because I've got
Right.
It's about conscience.
Right.
Oh, I know what he said. Never do anything against your conscience, even if the state demands it, Right. And I can't remember if it was Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers, said that rebellion to tyranny is obedience to God. And right now, you've got governors all over the land. You've got mayors all over the land. They are acting like tyrants. They're acting like kings. They're just going along with all of these world order type things. And so, to me, there's no. I don't see it as a lot of maybe members of the church see it like, oh, well, we just have to do what we're told. Well, let's look back in the 30s in Germany. There were members of our church back then that saw what was happening, and they stood up against it, and some of them were executed because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the most righteous thing we can be doing is standing up for our liberty and freedom, and be prayerful. You know, sometimes we get it wrong. I'm not saying every single move that I make is inspired, and I don't check in with God every single thing, every moment that I do. It's almost like, look, God just wants us to act, and if it's a good, righteous thing, for example, gathering with people that are under 70 years old, I think that's the most patriotic and righteous thing we can be doing, is gathering together, seeing our faces, feeling that energy between each other. I mean, there's a real thing when you gather and you have an interaction with a human being.
Mm-hmm.
God always gathers. The devil divides and God gathers. Always remember that.
Yeah.
Under any circumstance.
Yeah. And ever since this thing has begun, I have continued to have gatherings in my home and taken a lot of heat. One of the very first, because I will post it on Facebook. I will post pictures of us on Facebook, because sometimes people want someone else to lead the way before they're going to be brave enough to follow and do it themselves, even though they have the same desire, they want to do it. So, you know, I remember almost a year ago when this whole thing started and we were locked down, and I had people over because I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I had people over, took pictures, all of us in there with no masks, you know, posted it on Facebook. Most of my friends liked it. And of course, my socialist Facebook friend, gosh, I sure hope no one gets sick or dies. Let me know if anyone gets sick or dies from that.
Yeah. It's really sad. It's like, come on.
I know. So of course, you know, here it is a year later, and I've been regularly having these parties and continuing to do it with no masks. No one's ever gotten sick. No one's died. I still do not personally know anyone who's died from the virus. But so take us down the next step. You left the police force, and then what happened that led you on?
I got into just the public sector. Kind of started my own business, started doing pretty good there. And then, I moved down to Southern Utah. That's where I reside now, in the beautiful Southern Utah, where the
weather's
sun
better
is
down
shining
there
all the time.
I love it down there too.
And I stay away from the snow at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole thing with the 2 weeks to the lockdowns, the shutdowns, I got some calls from my police officer friends that are still employed by Salt Lake City. And they said, Eric, the mayor has put out a snitch line. So the Salt Lake County mayor and the Salt Lake City mayor, both put out snitch lines to where you can call your neighbor if they're not social distancing. So neighbors are now calling on neighbors. Police are going to these calls where they're telling people, hey, get away from each other. And that was like, to me, that was my call to action. Like, I knew that I had to do something. So I called the snitch line and I recorded myself, and I said, hey, there's going to be a former police officer that's going to do this big rally. And she says, well, he can't do that. And I said, oh, he's going to. And that was in April. And so I think we for sure had the first rally in Utah, maybe one of the first in the United States, maybe not next to Michigan, because I think Michigan, they were starting to already gather around the Capitol. But we had several thousand people show up to that. And then I just had a vision about how to help these small businesses. So then we started to do bigger events. Our next event, that's when I created the Utah Business Revival on Facebook, the Facebook page, Utah Business Revival. And we started to gain a lot of people, like a couple thousand people were coming, boom, boom, boom. And then we had an event in Utah County where we had right around 5,000 people. We had, I don't know, maybe 80 booths. I don't know how many businesses signed up just to come. And it was free for everyone. It was free for the businesses, free for people to come. We had music. We had 22 Utah elected officials come. And we just talked about freedom and liberty, and we help shop. And this guy comes up to me, and he has this kind of book. Like, he opens up his book, and it's his business. Well, his book had all these stages, like music stages, concert stages with lights and all this stuff. And he's like, this is what I do, but we're shut down. And I just had the vision right there. I was like, we're going to have a concert. And so why I told you about country music and Colin Ray, because I text Colin Ray and I was like, hey, I want to I'd like to run something past you. So we jump on the phone. I'm like, do you want to be the first concert in America since COVID? He's like, I'm in. So then it was just this battle. That's what the documentary Nonessential is about. And you can watch the trailer at nonessentialfilm.com. And then I'll tell people how they can watch it here soon, because it's almost ready to go out. It'll be free to everyone. And so the documentary is about how we finally got this concert pulled off after being shut down in 2 different counties, where the hypocrisy was unbelievable from these city, councils and county commissioners who think they have all this power. And so finally we got the concert off, and it was one of the most incredible nights ever. I mean, the spirit of liberty was so strong, and people don't understand, but there's an actual spirit to liberty, and it's in the scriptures that where there's liberty, the Spirit of the Lord is there, and that is liberty. I mean, that's Heavenly Father. The reason why He lives in a pure liberty form, meaning He is the most liberated being in the universe, is because He follows certain laws that allows Him to be the way He is. And He's trying to teach us those laws. And that's why freedom and liberty is such an important cause, because without it, we couldn't understand how heaven is. And then on the other hand, you've got control. So the war in heaven that it talks about in the scriptures, and even in the book of Revelation, was about control versus freedom. And so it's spilled onto the earth, and we're having the exact same war. That's why I always say this is a spiritual war. When you
this is just a continuation. I felt that for forever, and you can just see it's heating up so much right now. And it's the same war in heaven, just continuing here on earth.
Yeah, and I believe that God sent us to fight these battles for righteousness. I believe in the opposition of all things. So with I believe He sent His choicest and strongest warriors to come at this time, but I also believe He sent His most disobedient at the same time. And that's why you see this huge polarization of these 2 ways of thinking, of control versus freedom, because I believe we made certain choices in heaven that allowed us to be on the front line. And then you have all these other people that weren't fighting for it. I don't know if that's true. I can just envision it, because you talk to some of these people and they don't understand. Even within the church, there's some people within the church that full on believe that government should be controlling our lives.
Yeah, and the thing is, I didn't realize that until 2020. And I've had members of my ward unfriend me because they couldn't stand what I was saying on my Facebook page.
Yeah, let's talk about tolerance.
Yeah, where is it?
Let's talk about tolerance, and let's talk about love. That you're gonna disassociate. And I'll talk to liberals all day long, and there comes a point where it's just not healthy, and so you have to rid yourself of poisonous people. But I will discuss with any person on planet Earth about these principles. And so that's why we're continuing to go around. So we showed the film. So we showed the documentary Nonessential in Ogden, and there was like several hundred people that came, a couple hundred in the first, and then another 200 in the next. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to keep doing this. I just had this impression. We got to keep gathering. So then we did another showing, and then another showing. And now we've done like almost 30 showings all over, from northern and southern Utah to Idaho to Colorado, where you're at, to Missouri. We just got invited to Wyoming. And so my hope with this documentary is that once it's released, and by the way, you can sign up for just my very, very minimal text messages. Actually, I haven't even sent out one text message. So
no, because when you were in Castle Rock, I texted that number you gave me. I haven't heard anything back.
Well, I know. I'm just building. I just don't know if I'm going to get ripped off of social media. So anyway, Text the word liberty to 888-210-6260. Text the word liberty to 888-210-6260. And then you'll get an update. You'll get my webpage. You can sign up for my webpage. You can read my book. join my Telegram channel. But then once the documentary's out, I'll be able to send the link out to everybody. And then my hope is that people will use the documentary to gather and then to kind of replicate in their city how you do it. Like, and I'll tell people exactly how we did it. And I believe that we are the answer, you know, as citizens of this country and our states, we are the ones that are in charge, and people don't understand that. They haven't wrapped their mind because the school never taught them about it. They never taught about the principles of liberty. They never taught about the Constitution. They never taught about the Declaration of Independence, leaving. That's why the founders left. They left a radical and wild, out of control government, and they were now the rebels, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now if you look at the narrative, who's the enemy? I mean, think about it. Who is the enemy to the narrative? The enemy is now people who are, you know, 80 million plus people who voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
The enemy is now people who wear red, white, and blue. The enemy is people who are questioning,
right,
and who talk about, you know, conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, how, as someone who believes in the scriptures, how can you believe that we are right on the precipice of when Jesus Christ comes again, but there's no corruption? How can, so all of a sudden he's just going to show up and blast all the patriots? Or is there true secret combinations happening all behind the scenes? See, I believe that just as detailed as God is in your life, you know how you just know how detailed and how very, very aware on all the little details God is in your life, so is the devil. And if we allow him to take over our lives, he is in the details of everything. And because we've allowed him to hijack almost every institution in the world, from big corporations to governments to sports teams and schools, he's in all the little details. And it's very, very, very calculated. And people don't understand that. He doesn't work on the same time that we do. So people are like, there's no way this is one big conspiracy. Really? Really? Well, I don't think you understand the power that evil has when we allow it, if that makes sense.
Well, and the biggest problem, and the reason that we are where we're at right now as far as COVID and everything, is fear. And people have allowed it to make decisions for them and allowed it to make them give their power away to government. And I mean, just tonight, I went to Target with my daughter, my 12-year-old, who thinks I'm a Karen because I went in without a mask. And, you know, so many people have gotten so used to, I don't want to catch it. People are dying. I don't want to catch it. And it's like, okay, the first of all, 99.7% survival.
It's 99.991. Those are the numbers. 99.991. It is actually, the flu is actually worse in a lot of cases.
Well, in the last 6 weeks, it's dropped precipitously. Like the hospitalizations and the deaths have just dropped like a rock. But yet still, everywhere you go, everyone's masked up. And if I was the only one in Target without a mask on tonight. And my daughter acted like she didn't know me. She was trying to, you know, pretend like we weren't together. But nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. And the only way we're going to get out of this is by people being willing to go ahead and go against the grain like that and say, look, it's okay. You can stop conforming 100%. No one else is going to die because I didn't wear a mask tonight. You know, it's right. Okay. It's okay. Yeah.
See, I'm convinced that a lot of people like it. Like they actually like it. And so I don't care. I just want my right to be able to not wear a germ diaper on my face.
It should be entirely voluntary.
So I don't care. Okay. You want to wear it where you're working out? I mean, I saw this dude at the gym the other day. He's running like probably 5 miles an hour. I mean, he was moving. He's got a mask on.
That's nuts.
At the gym. This guy's like, 30 years old. I'm thinking, we've lost our minds.
Yeah.
But that's their right. And just give people the right. Give a business a right to say, hey, this is a mask-free business. I don't care if a business says, hey, you're not welcome in here. Great. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But when you don't even have a choice,
right
now there's huge problems. I'm telling you, this has been the most unconstitutional probably ever. The violation of the Constitution, violation of our rights, the violation of people's conscience. And then you have bishops kicking out people for not wearing a mask to take the sacrament.
Has that been happening up in Utah? I haven't heard.
It's happening all over the place.
Really? Because we are admonished every week via email to wear it, but I haven't seen anyone kicked out. But you definitely get the feeling that you're not welcome if you don't wear one.
The point is, like, look, even though I believe it's a large mistake, I do believe that leaders of churches all over most of them are just they're just trying to do what's right in their heart. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that it's right all the time. Yeah. And sometimes we think that we're on these crusades, and sometimes they're not right. Yeah. But to me, where we've really lost ourselves as a Christian nation is that we're not even talking about Christ. We're not talking about the healing power of Jesus. We're not talking about how he created our bodies that have an immune system. Mm-hmm. Why aren't we talking about that?
Yeah, it's like if you talk about immune system and how it's going to take care of you, you're a kook. It's like,
oh yeah.
That's why I wanted to have Dr. Barkey on, and he was so great because it was common sense coming from a man who's been practicing medicine for 25 years. Your immune system is there to help you, but if a lot of the sanitizing everything is actually working against.
So is masks. So is social distancing. Yeah, we're making our immune systems weaker. Absolutely. There's
and it's
no
ironic.
doubt.
It's ironic to me that the most anti-mask people that I talk to out there are the ones that actually get the virus. And then people like me I wear it when I have to. I sub in the schools. I have to wear it when I'm at school. I have to wear it in church. I think I'm done wearing it to Target, but I've not gotten it. I think I may have had it in December of 2019.
Yeah.
But that was before, we all knew it. But yeah, I've been perfectly fine all year round. It's just funny that every time I see someone who's completely pro-mask, they're just angry pro-mask, they end up getting it. It's just like, yeah, because you're touching that mask all day long, and then you're touching the surfaces where the virus might be.
I'm convinced that I got it when I went to DC the second time, not the last Trump rally, but the second to last Trump rally. Uh-huh. That's when I am pretty sure I got it, and it was because I wore that stupid thing on the airplane. And
was that the one where you were eating cookies on the plane, and there was a
that was a different one. That was a vacation we went on. That one got like 600,000 views. Yeah, and I was getting letters from all over, like, you're selfish. I hope you die. I hope you die. And it's like, hold on. I thought this was about life. It's like these people don't care. I mean, this is the same group of people that advocate and don't say a word when in 2020, 42 million babies were aborted. Mm-hmm. Where's their voice on that? What about their life? Let's talk about a true pandemic. Well, I'd love to see church leaders from all over the place talk about that as the pandemic. 42 million human beings slaughtered in the womb, and we're talking about a cold virus.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. If we can't protect the most vulnerable of all, a baby in the mother's womb, how do we even have any kind of, how can we be morally consistent on any of these issues? Yeah. It's all hype. It's all politics. It's all fear, and it's ran by the devil himself, and it has to stop. Mm-hmm. And I believe that it's, in the end, it's not about who wore a mask. It's not about who got vaccinated. It's, do you still love the people that you disagree with? Do you still love them? Do you still have love in your heart? That's the wheat and the tares, in my opinion. No matter where you're at on this issue. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go to heaven and they're going to say, hey, pull up your mask up and over your nose in order to end. That's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is if we do not love our neighbor, which sometimes is hard to do, that's the test, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you feel the need to get 100% conformity from everyone that you encounter, you might want to think about what's going on with you that you can't see someone without a mask without getting triggered. What's going on with you that you're that angry? you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where's the anger coming from?
Yeah, that's
Where's
not
the
that. You're right.
control coming from?
That's not a sense of love. And one of the reasons why I think I'm done wearing a mask in the store is because I actually do want, because I did that one other time, several months ago, and I had a lady walk by and say, mask. And I didn't really respond, but I wish, I almost want to now see the reaction and then actually stop and have a civil conversation and say, well, what is it about my naked face that bothers you so much? You know, stand a respectful 6 feet away and say, I'm just really curious to know. You've got a mask on and we're 6 feet apart. So you're safe and I'm not sick. So why are you so bothered by this? And really ask, find out where they're coming from and make them.
Well, good luck. I mean, if you're dealing with someone that says mask, you're dealing with someone that probably won't, or even
right.
they don't even know
But I
how to
am
have
kind of hoping to have that conversation. I would just like people to search their souls a little bit, because I'm doing it constantly with this whole situation, because I want to do my part and I want to do it in a loving way, but I want to do it in a way that enables other people to stand up, because sometimes you just need to see one other person do it before you're willing to do it. And I don't know why. I want to be that person.
Right. Well, and ultimately we all have missions, like, maybe God wants somebody to be sitting in their house by themselves with a mask on. I don't know. But you have to just ask yourself, like, okay, what is it that God wants me to do? And when you feel that something is wrong in your heart, but you go against it, you are going against your conscience. And to me, that's the iron rod in First Nephi chapter 8. The iron rod is the word of God, and the word of God is Christ inside of us. That's my opinion. I believe that's, and if we are listening to our conscience and we're following our conscience, that's what we have to be held accountable for, is our conscience. And to see, hey, well, what did you do? Did you know that it was wrong? Well, then why did you go against it? Because I don't think this is going to end. This is not going to stop, and nobody's going to stop what's coming. I mean, just read the scriptures. It's coming. I don't know when. But back in Noah's time, it's pretty much the same kind of climate. And in Noah's time, only eight people were right when being right really, really mattered. And right now, it's kind of like jump on the spiritual ship, because what's coming is, no one's going to stop what's coming.
No.
But what we can do is we can have that light inside of us. We can have faith. We can have hope. We can plan. We can prepare, because if you are prepared, you shall not fear. And so get with people in your neighborhoods, get with 10 people, make a plan. What are you going to do? Have a bug out location. And just be ready, because you thought the toilet paper shortage was a bad thing. You wait till there's no food.
Yeah. No, I'm my podcast, it's really heavy on prep this year. I feel like I'm about to get sick of hearing it, but I'm doing them on how to handle shortages or outages of water, power. I actually did one on bug out bags and knives, ammo, guns, the whole thing. Because if you're not prepared now, this is the time. There really isn't any more time to procrastinate being ready spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, all the different ways that you need to be ready. This is the time. If you're not there, this is it. I agree 100%. I've been doing a lot of reading. I'm hopefully having Michael Rush on pretty soon, who wrote The Remnant Shall Return, about Ezra's eagle and the lost 10 tribes, but all the things that are going to happen before the second coming, which doesn't feel that far away. So we know things are going to get much worse before they get better. So but you don't have to have fear. It's amazing. It's like, just look to Christ, during the storms that he faced, and literally where everybody left him, everyone, including his own apostles, left him alone, to where he had to do it all by himself. He still had peace. And I think that's what his story teaches, is that under any circumstance,
you can still have him and that peace that he brings inside of your soul, no matter what happens. And it's going to be scary no matter what. We're human beings. You're going to have those fearful things. But if you know that you're straight with God on a daily basis and you're still feeling the Spirit, you know, when you study, when you serve people, when you pray, you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what do you have coming down the line now? The movie's going to come out pretty soon that we can access when we get a text after we've texted the word liberty to 888-210-6260, and I'll post that in the show notes.
Thank you.
And what else do you have going?
Who knows? I'm getting ready to launch a supplement company that's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be based on the principles of freedom and liberty.
Awesome.
Here soon in a couple weeks. And I do speaking, you know, people have been I love to go out and speak to people about freedom and liberty. So if there's a group that wants me to come, you can go to my webpage and just send a contact or send a message through the contacts, and would love to do a showing, you know, of Non-Essential. If you can get over like 100 people to come, I'll come wherever you're at.
Awesome.
And
so ericmoutsos.com would be the best place for them to reach
you. ERICMOUTSOS. ERICMOUTSOS.com.
And you have you're on Facebook and Telegram, Utah Business Revival page on both of those, or is that just on Facebook?
No, I have a Utah Revival on Telegram.
Okay.
I've got that Telegram channel. I'm on Parler, even though Parler is kind of like on life support. It just got restored. It just got zapped back to life for a minute. But I've got a YouTube channel, a Rumble channel. There's too much. It's unbelievable. It's like we're going to be like sending pigeons out to each other with messages at the end of this.
I know. There's just there's too. I'm on MeWe, and I think I'm on Telegram. I'm everywhere too. It's like, how many more of these places do we have to go to before we feel like we're completely pushed out? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, and they're just doing it to themselves. This whole cancel culture. I don't even want to get into it because it'll take too long. But they are hurting. They are destroying themselves. Because in the end, the only person standing at the end of the cancel culture is the devil himself. The reason why this is happening, and people don't understand spiritually, is that the devil doesn't have an identity. Literally, yeah, he's a man, I guess, as a spirit. He doesn't have any parts to him. He doesn't have male parts. And so he's trying to become, what he's doing right now with this cancel culture and canceling pretty much everything, is he wants not only people to become miserable like him to himself, but he wants people to become basically unidentifiable. Like no identity, to where it's just a complete, I mean, think about it. Think about the mask as a symbol. You don't have an identity and you're not talking. And so I believe hell is going to be a whole bunch of people who don't even know who they are. And they don't have an identity. See, on the other hand, God, he wants you to become like him. He wants to give you everything he has and your identity to shine. And that's what's happening. That's why he's dividing. He'll divide and he'll isolate. He'll get you depressed to where you want to take your own life. And God wants everyone to gather, wants everyone to socialize, wants everyone to love, share voluntarily. And that's why you see these two opposition in all things. You're seeing Satan knows that there is going to be 1,000 years of peace where Christ is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and we're all going to be sharing voluntarily in a perfect order, a united order. And then on the other hand, Satan's trying to mimic his plan by creating a new world order with force and fear. That's what that's the two things that you're seeing right now. You're seeing the opposition to the united order with a one world order ran by the devil himself. That's my opinion.
Well, I definitely see the war continuing on Earth. And so I guess everyone needs to decide which side they're going to land on. Are they going to love each other and be on the side of liberty? Or are they going to insist on everyone being controlled by the government and being a part of that? And division that goes along with that. So
yeah, what a crazy time.
It is.
But you know what? But God sent us down. God sent us down. And so really, you just have to look into your heart and figure out what he wants you to do individually, because we all have missions.
We do. And I wish more people would do more meditating on that. I'm constantly trying to figure out what it is that Heavenly Father wants me to do next. And if we were all focusing on doing that more frequently, we would definitely make great strides in overcoming a lot of this nonsense.
Well, and that's why the answer is you individually, because when you can figure yourself out individually, then your circle is brighter. And so I haven't given up on people, but you can just see the pattern. It's always like 2 to 3% of the people that made the biggest change. And it's the same thing now. There's not a lot of people that are going to wake up like we wish, but that's how it's always been. It's the way it will always be. And that's, so you just got to figure out, who are you?
All right. Well, keep me posted on what you're doing. I'm going to keep following you. I've got some things I'm working on doing too, so I may have to reach out to you privately and get your opinion on, I'm thinking of putting out a nationwide petition, or basically petitioning for redress of grievances by saying, we want all of the restrictions done now. We're done. Right. They're unconstitutional. They're ineffective, and they're immoral. Yeah.
It's not even like people keep talking about the Constitution. It's just immoral. It's immoral.
It's hurting people.
You cannot have liberty without morality.
Yeah.
And freedom and liberty aren't the same thing. Freedom plus bad choices equals bondage. And that's why we're in bondage right now, because of really, really bad choices, or the lack of choosing. Mm-hmm. People think, oh, well, I don't have to get in this. Well, by you not getting into it is to get into it. By you not speaking is speaking. By you not voting is voting. It's like you're by not swimming against that cultural current, you're automatically going back no matter what. And so freedom plus morality, freedom plus good choices equals liberty. You cannot have liberty without good choices. And right now, the most moral thing and patriotic thing you can be doing is standing up for your rights and exercising your God-given rights.
Thank you. And at the very least, contacting your elected officials. I don't know how many times I've emailed the governor now and let him know. If everyone was doing that, if everyone was politically active, we would not be in this mess that we're in right now. So people have got to stop just sitting back and doing nothing. All right. Well, I really appreciate you joining me and keeping us posted on what you're doing. I admire all the stuff that you've done with all the gathering. I was really touched by that, the clip of Nonessential that we saw up there, and the comparisons to the Spanish flu. And it's a fascinating thing to watch what people are willing to do for flu. So keep up the good work. And I will link everyone to your show note, to your website and your phone number and everything in the show notes, so you guys can reach Eric Moutsos.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you all for listening to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness.